Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on your favorite Little Slaw YouTube channel. So, we are collecting questions from our subscribers in our WhatsApp channel, and they were the questions which are mostly related to the performance testing, and they are like mostly about their queries and their challenges which they face in their current daily day-to-day work. So today in this video, we are going to deal with one of the questions that one of our subscriber has asked in our WhatsApp channel's Excel sheet. And even if you have any other questions like this, you can add that to the Excel sheet. I'm sharing the link of that sheet. You can add your question as well, and I will answer it to you as soon as possible. So before we move on to this video, this is me, Vasant Shanmugam. I welcome you all to our Little Sly YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Like, share the video with your friends. And let's now go to the question. So the question is from our subscriber. It is while the requirement gathering from dev team as a tester, we will ask what type of testing we need to do, like breaking or targeting TPS, which is transactions per second. So, how the dev team will decide the type of testing scenario. So, here I will take you through some of the concepts which you will have to talk or you'll have to make sure that you make the dev team to understand so that you can very well collect the required type of testing scenario. So, let's now move on to the first few part of it. So I will, in fact, I will take you with examples as well. So it will be very helpful for you to collect the requirements. So the first part of it is understanding the system architecture. So the development team needs to have a clear understanding of the system architecture, which includes its components, its dependencies, and the interactions. And in fact, it's not only the dev team, it's also the performance testing team. So everybody must have a clear understanding of the system architecture and their components and their dependencies and interactions. So when it comes to the understanding, let me give you an example. So the development team and the performance testing team should thoroughly understand the architecture of the website. For example, like your application, it can be an e-commerce website or it can be any other domain website. It should include its front-end components like the web servers, its browsers, and the back-end components like the application servers and the databases and any other third-party integrations. Like if you have a payment gateway or if you have any inventory management system. So you must understand the system architecture, the front end, which includes the web servers, browsers, the backend components, which includes application servers, databases, and the third-party integrations, which includes payment gateways, inventory management systems. So that is all about the understanding of the system architecture. And the second part is the identification of critical use cases. So the team must identify the most critical use cases or scenarios that the application or system needs to handle under normal conditions. And these could include tasks like user authentication, data retrieval, processing transactions, etc. So let me give you an example on that part. So the team should identify the critical journeys on the website, such as the user registration or the product search or adding items to the cart or checkout process and like payment processing. So all these critical use cases must be identified and documented. So that is about the second part. And now moving on to the third section of it. And in this scenario, we are going to do two things. One is analyzing and then the estimation. So when it comes to analyzing the non-functional requirements, so the team must review the non-functional requirements which are specified for the system, such as the response time, the throughput, the scalability, and resource utilization. And these requirements will help you to determine the type of testing scenario needed. So this is the critical part. So that's why we need to do this analysis. So how to do it? Let me give you an example for that. So for example, they review the non-functional requirement specified for the website, including the response time. For example, the pages should be loaded within 3 seconds. So this is a requirement, and the throughput, which is like you should support 1,000 concurrent users. And in fact, if it is a scalability, you must handle 50% of increase in traffic during holiday season. So all these are the requirements, and these requirements will decide and tell you what type of testing you need to collect or what you need to do. So next part is considering the expected load and stress level. So which is the estimation. So based on the projected usage patterns and the expected user load, which we discussed in the previous section, which is in the analysis part. So this will help you to design the realistic test scenario. So, in talking about an example for this, so based on the historical data and the market research, the team must estimate the expected user load and the stress levels the website might face, such as the peak hours during sales events or any promotional campaigns. So, that's about the analysis and the estimation. And now, moving on to the next part, which is the evaluation and prioritization. And let me take you through the topics and then I'll give you an example. So, when it comes to evaluating the performance goals, the team should establish the performance goals and objectives for the system, such as whether are you going to achieve a certain response time or you're going to support a specific number of concurrent users, because these goals will guide you the selection of testing scenarios, right? So if you want to achieve certain response times, your testing should be a different set of performance testing, or if you want to support a specific number of concurrent users, then you're going to run a different set of performance testing, right? So let me give you an example for that. So for example, once you establish your performance goals, such as maintaining a response time of under 3 seconds for 90% of requests and ensuring the website can handle a surge in traffic without crashing or slowing down significantly, right? So that is how you're going to evaluate the performance goals. And then the prioritization of scenarios. So the team must prioritize the testing scenarios based on their criticality, which is like impact on the user experience and by alignment with the business objectives. So in fact, you can even prioritize these scenarios which you're going to test like more rigorously. And when it comes to an example, so the team must prioritize testing scenarios based on their impact on the user experience and business operations. So for example, the checkout process and the payment processing are prioritized over less critical functionalities like user profile updates, right? Because they are like very least used, but the checkout process and the payment processing are the highly prioritized transactions. So from the beginning, I'm like connecting all these dots. So you have to understand the components, you have to understand the critical scenarios, and you have to analyze the non-functional requirements, and you have to consider the expected load and stress levels, and you have to evaluate the performance goals. So everything is like interconnected to each and every part. So now moving on to the next part, which is the consultation and using the tools and techniques. So let me take you to that part now. So when it comes to consulting the performance testing experts, so if needed, the team must, it's not if needed, like nowadays it's must. So the team must consult with the performance testing experts, which is us, and or any specialists who have experience in designing and executing the performance test, because these experts like we provide valuable insights and recommendations. So it's not only just the dev team. This is what I wanted to say at the beginning, but still I wanted to bring it at the end because I want to share you all these informations before you even understand how important are we to this testing. So after analyzing all these parts, there should be a consultation with us with performance testers to gain any insights on the recommend for any recommendations. So for example, the team should consult with the performance testing experts who recommend using first the tools like whether it's a JMeter or a Gatling for load testing or stress testing, and they should also suggest techniques like ramp up testing to simulate the gradual increase in user load. So, although the development team has all these information, it's us, the performance testers, who is going to decide what type of testing based on the data that we have collected, based on the architecture that we are going to test, based on the every information that we collected. So we are going to decide what type of testing that we're going to do. So using the tools and techniques, so the team must select appropriate tools and techniques to perform for performance testing based on the identified scenarios and requirements, and this could include tools for load testing, stress testing, and scalability testing. So for example, like based on the recommendations, the team selects JMeter as their priority tool for load testing and creating test scripts to simulate user interactions for critical use cases like product search, checkout, and the payment. And finally, the last part, which is the iterative approach, and then I'll give you a summary of what we are going to see. So, when it comes to the iterative approach, the team might adapt, or the team must adapt an iterative approach to performance testing, starting with the basic scenarios and gradually increasing the complexity and the intensity of the tests as the system matures. So, we should adapt an iterative approach to the performance testing, starting with the basic scenarios with a small user load and gradually increasing the complexity and intensity of the test. And also, we should monitor the system performance. We must identify the bottlenecks and make necessary optimization. So, overall, the development team collaboratively decided on the type of testing scenarios for performance testing by understanding the system architecture, by identifying the critical use cases, by analyzing the non functional requirements, and by considering expected load and stress levels, and by evaluating the performance goals and by prioritizing the scenarios, and after consulting with performance engineering testing experts, selecting the appropriate tools and techniques and adapting an iterative approach to testing is what we expect to happen. And this comprehensive approach will ensure that the e-commerce website or any website that we select will meet its performance objectives. So now we might have a question like at what scenario we will choose whether the test is going to be a load test or a stress test. So for say for example, like the load testing involves simulating typical usage patterns to evaluate the system's performance under expected levels of load, and this helps us to determine how well the system can handle its intended workload. So when we are doing a load test, it will be tested under the expected level of load. But when it comes to stress testing, it involves pushing the system beyond its normal operating conditions to identify its breaking point or failure thresholds, and it helps to uncover the weakness in the system's architecture and configuration. So now we could understand what is the priority of the test, or what's the objective of the test, whether it's a load test or stress test or scalability testing. So we as a performance tester know what test will do what satisfies the what objective is being satisfied. So we must have an understanding on what we're going to test, and based on the understanding from the development team or based on the consultation with them, we should decide what type of testing that we are going to test. So the type of testing is decided by the performance testers and not by the development team. We must give them what we are going to do, and we should understand that we are going to we should tell them that we are going to do this because of these reasons. That is, if I want to test an application under expected level of loads, I'm going to test a load test. Or if I want to push the system beyond its normal operating system to identify its breaking point, I'm going to do a stress testing. That's the difference. So it's not the dev team, it's again the performance team, which is us, who are going to decide what type of testing we are going to do. So with that, I come to an end, and I believe this video would be very useful to you. So until I meet you in our next video, it's bye bye from Vasan Shanmugam and your favorite Little Star YouTube channel. Bye bye.